The year is April 5th, 2013, where NXT began their original heist to create their own NXT roster, creating their own championships. And on this particular date, they began a tournament to crown the first ever NXT Women's Champion. And in this timeline, and in the main timeline, Paige was the original winner. When it came down to her and Emma, Paige ended up becoming the first NXT Women's Champion. But in this video, we're going to be going in an alternative timeline, a different time period, where Triple H had a change of heart. Instead of going with Paige as his first NXT Women's Champion, he has Emma as his first NXT Women's Champion. It blows my mind of how Emma was one of the original originators of the Women's Revolution. Now yes, AJ helped spark the Women's Revolution, but, you know, AJ Lee helped spark the Women's Revolution, but Paige and Emma really started kicking down the barriers. And also Sasha Banks and Bayley on what they were able to accomplish in their in their time in NXT as well. So it blows my mind how all the originators, like Paige, had 3 different reigns. How the 4 horsewomen, do we really need to talk about their careers and how their careers skyrocketed? But it blows my mind how Emma was one of the only people from that original time period that never walked away with a championship. And it blows my mind how that never happened. But today, that changes. Because in this video, I'm going to be doing a scenario on what would have happened if Emma was the inaugural NXT Women's Champion instead of Paige. So, it is April 5th, 2013, and it's an episode of NXT. Paige and Emma are colliding in the main event to crown the first ever NXT Women's Champion. And these two have a grueling battle. It is a back and forth you've never seen before. The fans on the edge of their seats. It is England versus Australia. Paige and Emma not giving an inch. They fight hard and hard and hard to push barriers beyond the limits of the women's division at the time period. They weren't just 2 sexy girls. They just didn't want to be two gorgeous girls that just wanted to wear bikinis and all that and have 5-minute matches. They wanted to show the world what the women's division could really become in the near future. So they battle it out and they go at it. Paige hitting her finishing move, the Paige Turner at the time. She didn't have the Rampage. She started doing that on the main roster. She hits her finishing move, the Paige Turner, but Emma survives and kicks out. Paige is horrified and can't believe it with her shocked expressions. The one thing I always found funny was Paige's shocked expressions. I will say she was pretty good at that. But, so she now gets desperate and tries again. She gets desperate and tries again, but Emma was able to counter and get her in the dilemma. Her little tarantula against the corner, and does an Emma Might sandwich for a very close 2 count. Paige then tries to do her little PTO submission hold, but Emma is able to kick away. She's able to kick away, and Emma's able to kick away and stay alive. Paige runs towards Emma. Emma flapjacks her against the ropes. Paige is down. She's now flat on her belly, But Emma grabs the legs. She now does her dance, and the crowd are getting restless. As she starts doing her dance, she bends backwards and locks in the Emma lock, stuck in the center of the ring with nowhere to go. Paige, seeing the ropes, Paige starts to crawl and crawl, trying to use her hands to try and crawl her way to the ropes. But her legs are caught. She can't move herself. because of her legs. Her arms can only push her so far. With nowhere to go, Paige, seeing the ropes still far, far away, trying to hold on as much as she could. Emma wrenching Paige's head back, applying as much pressure as she could, pushing Paige's head up higher and higher and higher, cranking in a lot of pressure. Paige realizing there's no hope left. She's got nowhere to go. She can't get out. No matter how hard she pushes with her hands, she can't get anywhere near the ropes. So Paige makes the decision to tap out in the middle of the ring. The crowd go wild. Emma's music begins to play, and the announcement is made. Your winner by submission, and the new NXT women, and the first ever NXT Women's Champion, Emma. And Emma is in tears, crying with joy, as Triple H comes down and rewards her the championship. She raises it up with Triple H standing next to her, as Paige looks on the outside, tearfully and sad. But she knows that they did a good thing today, putting on a classic match for the fans. Now, I didn't really watch a lot of NXT during this time period, because here's the thing, I didn't even know NXT was a thing in 2013. I kind of knew, that's false. I did know NXT was a thing, but during the times that I saw NXT, it was like this little, kind of like a show. It was not like a wrestling product like it is today. It was like a little show, you know, Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, you know, the original NXT and what it was before it was today. So, completely different. So I didn't know NXT became its own wrestling show, and they started ditching the whole, you know, challenges and all that. When one of my friends told me about an Australian girl that was in NXT, I had no idea what he was talking about. So I actually started looking things up of NXT during that time period, and yeah, I was quite surprised with what I saw back then. So, now that Emma is the first champion, the crowd give her a "You deserve it" chant, as Emma just cuts a promo, talking about how happy she is to be the first champion. However, it sounds like Paige is not done just yet. Paige comes out, and she congratulates Emma on becoming the first champion. She talks about how much she really wanted it to be her. But Emma tells Paige, you know what? It can be you. But how about we run it back at the first NXT pay-per-view, NXT Arrival. The crowd are happy and excited about the idea of seeing these two collide again. Paige was ready. Paige, with a smile on her face, was about to accept, until So Cool begins to play as Summer Rae makes her way to the ring. Summer Rae is appalled and disgusted with the fact that we have a dancing idiot as our first champion and not a real athlete. She talks about how Emma is a joke and is a bad representative of NXT. She's a entertainer that does a silly dance. She's not a pro wrestler like me. And obviously the crowd love the Emma dance, so they start doing it and also start singing her theme music just to annoy Summer Rae. Paige comes to the defense of Emma, says, you know what, she may have a silly gimmick, but she is a serious wrestler in the ring. When that bell rings, the dancing is over, and she is a very serious she's a serious threat. Summer just laughs it off and thinks that Paige has no right to talk. She couldn't beat this goofball. And then Emma then turns to Summer Rae and she's like, okay, then why don't you put your money where your mouth is and you wrestle me tonight on NXT. Summer Rae happily accepts the challenge. So as we get ready for the match between Emma and Summer Rae comes out and she has two friends with her, Charlotte and Sasha Banks. Emma is now noticed that she had been sucked into a match. Emma has Summer Rae in the Emma lock. But then Charlotte and Sasha Banks come in to cause the disqualification. With a 3-on-1 beatdown on our champion, Paige tries to make the heroic save. Tries to come down to Emma's aid and tries to save her. But unfortunately, she couldn't do anything. She tried to help out, but couldn't. In the end, Emma and Paige are both left laying by Summer Rae and her two new friends of Sasha Banks and Charlotte, forming the BFF. Yes, I did my research, and I know this was original, and yes, this was something that was not made up. This was actually a real thing. I did look it up. I did do my research of what happened in the original NXT. So I do know Summer Rae formed a little faction with Summer Rae and Charlotte before they both started branching out and becoming their own wrestlers. Summer Rae was the reason that Sasha Banks became the boss. She was the one that kind of inspired Sasha Banks to become the boss character. Now, yes, Bayley was around during this period, so we'll just say Bayley comes in and joins in with Emma and Paige to take on this new faction. So as we fast forward a few weeks, we also get a match between two people that never really had a match against each other. And this is a match before NXT arrival. Emma was feeling in the mood to put her title on the line. She was willing to put her championship on the line. And out comes a young, a pixie dust breathing Alexa Bliss with her fairy gimmick, which is a gimmick I actually didn't hate. But Alexa comes down and accepts the open challenge. If there is one thing that I am genuinely surprised by, is the fact that Emma and Alexa Bliss never had a match. I know they were both heels when they were both on the same show, but it's still crazy to me that these two never had a match with each other. Even in NXT, they didn't even have matches with each other in NXT, which is so crazy to think that Emma and Alexa Bliss never had a match with each other. So, that changes in this video, as Emma agrees to put her title on the line in an open challenge, and Alexa Bliss is the one to come down and accept. Both of these girls have weird, silly gimmicks. Emma does a dance, while Alexa blows pixie dust out of her hands. I guess you can say this is the battle of the odd gimmicks. But these two have a really competitive match. Alexa tries the Twisted Bliss, Emma gets her knees up, and was able to catch her in the Emma lock, forcing Bliss to tap out. But before Emma really got the chance to celebrate her win, Summer Rae once again jumps her. Once again jumps her with her two friends. Paige comes down to try and aid them, but Alexa Bliss, who is sitting out there on the outside seeing all this happening, she gets back into the ring and helps Paige and Emma, fighting off the BFF, leading into a 6-woman's tag the following week before NXT arrival. It gets made official that Emma and Paige will fight each other in a rematch. And in the 6-woman's tag, the heels end up winning, Summer Rae pinning Alexa Bliss, because of an inadvertent contact between Paige and Emma. This ends up causing Paige and Emma to start arguing with each other, and Paige and Emma believing that Paige hit her on purpose, but Paige is trying to tell Emma it was an accident and she didn't mean to. So unfortunately, little Miss Bliss is left by herself, being comboed by everybody's finishes while Paige and Emma were arguing, and she ultimately gets pinned. And then the two challengers fight. Alexa tries to break it up, but Paige just swats her away. Just swats the little fairy away, and the two of them begin their brawl. Paige ends up standing tall, taking Emma out with the Paige Turner, raising her championship up. No, this isn't a heel turn. Some of you may be thinking that it was a heel turn. This wasn't a heel turn. This was just two people wanting to build up their match. And then it happens. The match happens at NXT Arrival, as these two once again run it back from their classic to become the first champion. These two go at it and they have another great match. They go at it, they continue to beat the hell out of each other, wanting to prove a point to the entire world that this is what women's wrestling needs to be like. Emma this time was not able to tap out Paige to the Emma lock because Paige was able to make the ropes this time. But the back and forth continues. Paige tries to lock in her submission hold, the PTO, but Emma was able to counter it and roll her up for a really close 2 count. Again, she flapjacks Paige across the ropes, gets her in the Emma lock, but this time Paige has nowhere to go. She's stuck in the center of the ring, and Paige once again has to tap out to Emma, forcing her to once again come up short by submission. And Paige, in defeat, accepts defeat. She shakes hands with Emma, raises her hand in defeat, as the two go off the air together with their heads held high, knowing they did a fantastic job. Emma would go on to feud with Summer Rae for a few months, and then Paige would get called up. Now, here's another thing. Would Paige still get called up to the main roster? Despite that she's never been NXT Women's Champion, I don't think she'd get called up to the main roster. Because remember, she got called up to the main roster because she was the champion, and Paige and Emma and AJ, well, she wanted time off and she wanted someone to lose the belt to. I don't really want it to be Emma in this scenario, because I think having her stay champion is really important, because I think we should have her drop the title to somebody. Which, if we've looked at the history of the NXT Women's Championship, the person that eventually does win the championship is Charlotte. So Emma would eventually drop the title to Charlotte, but we'll get to that in the next part, because I don't want this video to run too long. So, we'll stop here at NXT Arrival. Do you guys feel that Paige should still get called up even though she was never champion? Or do you feel Paige would stay in NXT maybe at least another year or 2 before she does eventually get her run? This was a video I really wanted to make, because I felt like Emma's been done dirty for so long, and I felt she really needed her own closure. So that's the end of this video. If you guys want to see more of these kinds of what-ifs, and if you want to see a part 2 to what would happen if Emma was the champion, be sure to let me know. And if you want me to do more what-ifs, let me know on what particular what-ifs you would like to see, of which particular superstars you want me to make a what-if story on. Be sure to let me know, and I will see you all in the next video.